from really a very interesting presentation of what's happening here in Lebanon, we move to another presentation, also very local, from Lea Kai. She's the manager and the advisor of UNDP climate change projects at the Ministry of Environment. She works closely with the Lebanese government on designing and implementing climate policies and promoting policy reforms. So she's guiding the development and implementation of various programs, laws, and regulations. And as part of the official Lebanese delegation, she has been negotiating international climate change agreements for 20 years, including the Paris Agreement. She contributes regularly to the broader sustainability landscape through academic contributions, speaking, and mentoring students and young professionals. She holds a degree in environmental health and technology, also from AUB, and in economic development from Harvard Kennedy School for Government. So please help me welcome Lea to stage.
Good morning, good afternoon, badna morning. Thank you for having me, and thank you for opening a very important discussion and conversation related to the rebuilding path. And I really like the word rebuilding and not reconstruction, because it's not just infrastructural, it's actually rebuilding of institutions, rebuilding of systems, and also rebuilding an infrastructure. So today I'm taking you through the rebuilding a climate change lens for rebuilding. How can we plan? How can we rebuild? How can we reform? How can we invest in infrastructure, in systems, especially in infrastructure, without taking into consideration climate change? Why here in Lebanon talking about climate change? And what is the importance of having climate change mainstreamed into any rebuilding plan? So we are emitters of greenhouse gas emissions, right? We are not the biggest in the world. We only contribute to 0.04% of global emissions, but we do emit, and basically the two most emitting sectors are energy and transport, which already, and as Lamia was mentioning, are already big sources of environmental pollution, big sources of budget deficits in Lebanon, and a big also social and economic problem. So when we think about how much we contribute and we think that we don't contribute much, think about what does it mean for Lebanon. This 0.04% global means 80% here in Lebanon. Although emissions have decreased, especially after 2019, 32% decrease from the economic crisis. And if we compare it to what we thought we would be producing under a BAU scenario, you can see we're really far, far behind what we thought we would be producing historically. And if we compare it to the targets that we usually put, targets to reduce emissions under the Paris Agreement, this was NDC 2.0, we also see that we're doing a great job. No, we're not doing a great job. This is the silver lining or the byproduct of the economic crisis, the COVID, when the world was, and Lebanon was really on pause, but we do expect emissions to increase. Now we are in the reconstruction phase, and the rebuilding phase. We need more cement, we need more industries, we need more agriculture. So this will be increasing. So the idea is, how can we increase in a less steep way? Can we not go back to our business as usual scenario and do it in a better way? So even if we are decreasing, or even as we will still be decreasing, we are being impacted significantly by climate change impacts. Historically, and if we look backwards, already the temperature is increasing, and an increase of 1.5, 1.6% average. And in some areas and regions in Lebanon, it's even more. The dry days are increasing, the tropical nights are increasing, and I think you're all living it. The rain is changing patterns, it's changing intensity. The whole system is changing, historically. And the future does not bear any good news. So all the modeling that we've done to project ourselves, project our systems into the future and think, okay, so we will be better off or worse off. So actually everything looks worse. Less rain, more intensification of heat waves, of droughts, of diseases, and أكيد you have all the consequences on food security, energy security, increased in cooling demand, we don't have electricity, increased in water demand, we don't have water. So it's really, we're going to a bad place, plus we need to reconstruct, plus we need to rebuild, plus we need to solve the challenges of today before solving the challenges of tomorrow. So what are we doing as a Ministry of Environment, as UNDP, supporting the government as a whole and the Ministry of Environment specifically? We are trying to build a resilient and low carbon growth. ليش resilient? لأنه we have to withstand what's coming, but in the same time we don't need to slow down our economic growth, our economic development. And it's a very challenging task to do both in the same time. Part of our commitments to the Paris Agreement, نحن Lebanon, we signed the Paris Agreement in 2019, by law, we should commit to reduce emissions and adapt. So we did it in 2015, we did it in 2020, so we set targets, and in September we updated our third, what we call nationally determined contribution. I like the word لأنه it's very, we thought a lot about this word during the Paris Agreement. So it's nationally determined contribution. We determine how much we can reduce. We determined where we want to prioritize, what sectors, what systems. It's nationally determined. إذا بتنتبهوا, it's not a commitment, it's a contribution. So we are committed, but at the end of the day, this is a contribution of developing countries to the global economy. لأنه نحن we're not responsible for climate change, we're more so there's a historical responsibility. نحن we are more on the impacted side. So what did we commit to? We committed to reducing our emissions from 22% to 33%. وهذا بنسميها unconditional conditional target. يعني نحن as we are doing business today, we can reduce up to 22%, but if you provide us with more financing, with more technical support, we can go up to 33%. We specifically حطينا as a government, so when بقول we هلا it's okay, the government led by the Ministry of Environment. So we also put a specific target to increase renewable energy. Okay, so a renewable energy targets are between 25% and 30% of power demand to be generated by renewable energy. And this is a very strong political messaging that we are moving towards this direction. We have also committed to adapt, وهيدا أكيد كلها contingent to technical and financial support, to adapt in 8 specific sectors that we chose as a government to be the most vulnerable. وبتشوفوا in each sector, we have set an objective, but also very specific activities that can help this specific sector to adapt to climate change. All of this while taking advantage of the opportunity for green recovery. So why we're doing this? لأنه eventually we want to tap into the climate finance and funding that is being made available across the world for climate-related projects and climate initiatives. And as you can see, all the multilateral banks, the development entities, even the climate finance, they are all putting lots of investments and funding into projects that are sustainable, that are climate-proofed. So all projects that can help in rebuilding and reconstructing Lebanon that should be sustainable and climate-proof. And this is the entry point. So let's build better, build it back better. أكيد كتير عم تسمعوها. Let's build it back better. But how? How can we do it? It's just هيك شعار, a slogan, or can we do it concretely on the ground? And this is what we try to do, to give very clear indications to the government, how can you do it? So what is climate proofing? So it's integrating climate risks and opportunities into both investment and policy decisions. ليش? To ensure that projects remain viable, financially viable, safe and sustainable under future climate scenarios. So it's locking clean technology, locking low carbon technologies, locking good practices, at least in the 60 years to come. لأنه إذا اليوم حطينا drainage system أو storm water system with a diameter of 2 meters لأنه عم نشتغل على historical maximum rainfall, this will be stuck under your highway for the next 60 years. If Anna today, I make sure that my stormwater drainage actually takes into account my new maximum rainfall per day or per minute or per hour, then at least I lock something in the future that is adaptable and that is adapted to what is coming. So شو عملنا؟ أخذنا the development strategies of Lebanon. وقت عملناها in 2018 وكلهم by the way بعدهم the same. So we took them and said, okay, so we have the economic plan, the recovery plan, the reconstruction plan, using a methodology of cost-benefit analysis. What is the cost of a specific project? What are the environmental and social benefits of this project? نعمل a cost-benefit analysis to see, does it make socially and economically sense to actually increase my investment in a bigger pipe, مثلا, for storm? Does it really make sense? And then we selected specific entry points. شو entry points? The common denominator between reconstruction plan, economic reforms, and climate change. Water, energy, social infrastructure, agriculture, and urban infrastructure. حأعطيكم example. All of these projects include road rehabilitation, خاصة بعد الحرب, right? So there were a lot of damaged roads, so we want to rehabilitate the roads. The projects on paper usually say, okay, so road rehabilitation, في municipal road, service road, highways. If we want to climate proof it, هيك نحط لها صبغة إذا بدكم, a stain أو a color that is climate change, how can we climate proof it? The same road, the same project, the same area, the same contractor. Let's think about high-capacity drainage system, permeable surface material, اللي permeable asphalt, nature-based solutions to accommodate more severe flooding, مثلا تزرعوا أكتر شجر on the side road, ما بتحطوا بس بيتون, بيكون porous material so that water actually can infiltrate into the ground when you have floods. جينا شفنا, okay, so a normal road will cost around $615 million. It's not one road, it's a package of road. Is that we take into consideration the capex or land acquisition cost. If I want to make it climate proofed, it's 42% higher. It's a lot. تحكوا مع Minister Jaber and tell him that he will be paying 42% extra for a road. And it wouldn't work, right? But this is the whole aim of this, to convince why it should work. But then if you take the economic benefits, so the economic benefits of a normal set of roads, it's around $765 million. هاي بنسميها gross value added, right? اللي هي the economic internal return of having new roads, اللي هي productivity, economic activity of كل whole. But if we climate proof it, and we take into account all the additional jobs that will be created to do this road specifically, of this package of road more climate proof, and 55% additional jobs created, and all what it means to the economy. إذا حتى بزيد أنا the social benefit of it, اللي هن the social benefit cost ratio of investment, we see that climate resilient roads is it's 2.3 times, brings back in terms of economic activities, economic benefits, 2.3 times more than a normal road. And this goes your social benefit. Your social benefit, avoided damage, avoided productivity, كلهم هولي they are taken into account here. So when you take it as a total, you can see very clearly, the benefits exceed the costs. And when we think not at an individual level, not at a project level, not at a company level, when we think about public good, the economic benefit of all this, all the projects make economic and social sense. And governments should think from an economic and social sense and not as a balance sheet, assets or liability point of view. So we've done this to a lot of projects. I will not go in details, but just to know, and you can have access to the documents. مثلا Beirut Airport. إذا نحن بدنا نعمل expansion, can we think about expanding it with solar? Can we expanding it with walls to reduce the high waves, to reduce the floods? The water supply systems, can we really think about liquefaction and floods and having deeper foundation مع good drenching and storm water? وكله هذا بيبين إنه مزبوط. We have an additional capex, but everything also إذا بتشوفوا on the graphs shows إنه في added value and في positive net benefits. Irrigation systems, زيت الشيء. Can we think about soil improvement? Can we think about technology? Can we think about AI? Informing farmers of when and how much to irrigate. So we did this for a long list of projects that are currently also being discussed under Beirut 1 that will be organized in November. So شو هيدا بيروت 1؟ حتجي الحكومة اللبنانية حتقول إنه okay, so we need to reform, we need to reconstruct. This is all the projects that we have that can help us. تعال buyers, تعال investors and invest in us. So what we're trying to do, كل هول البروجيات من الأول يكونوا فيهم climate lens. فيهم already it's integrated. In terms of reference بكرة, when it will go to the public procurement, it's integrated. In the design phase, it's integrated. If we lock it upstream, we can guarantee it's good functioning downstream. So overall, بيطلع إنه إذا we take all this package, all these projects, the total benefit is 16.2 billion. يعني نحن عنا rate of return تقريباً 3, okay, 3.5. بتشوفوا إنه the most efficient projects are on water and wastewater in terms of adaptation and energy, waste to energy in terms of mitigation, which is sometimes one of the opportunities that we might miss. So that was from a pure infrastructural development, matar, transport, communication, basic environmental supply, how to climate proof it. Okay, so the concept should be there in the beginning, in the terms of reference, in the project ideation and conception, and then it will flow down the line. How about from a government point of view, from a governance point of view? So we also thought, okay, so we're also developing economically, economic vision. Agriculture, industries are a big component of this economic vision. How can we also lock clean technologies? How can we climate proof it? So we, at the Ministry of Environment, supported by UNDP, we worked on something called a long-term low emission development strategy. اللي هي شو بتشوف؟ بتشوف, okay, إذا نحن اليوم نكمل as is, where would we be in terms of GDP and economic activity? And then we start plugging ideas. What if we transition to renewable energy? Let's dream. What if we transition to 100% renewable energy? What if we, and we couple it with the transition and an upskilling of labor? What if we meet 75% of our food locally resourced product from industries and from our agriculture? What if we have good health systems where we have no respiratory diseases from air pollution, and obviously it's 100%. So we let ourselves and our ministers and the whole government dream about where would we want Lebanon to be in 2050, and give them a snapshot of how it would look like. And actually, it shows that if we continue as a business as usual, well, يعني نحن تقريباً نطلع good يعني ل 70 billion GDP. علماً إنه نحن we were at 53 billion in 2018, went down to 19 billion during the crisis, وهلا we're trying to go up. But if we, so the business as usual, لا خلينا أرجع لكم. So the business as usual actually takes us to around 20 million, right? If we do reforms, it can go up to, so with the reforms of the government, okay, it's not climate proofed, we can go up to around 70 million. Once we get climate proofed, even without reforms, we can get a higher GDP تقريبا 53% higher GDP. And the best case scenario, no, we do the reforms of the government, plus we give this label of climate change, and then we can really reach sustainable growth, sustainable in the temporal term of sustainable, but also in the financial term of sustainability. And this has been proven. Okay, so حسب نحن our modeling and our assessment. It can lead to having the energy bill being only 2.4% of our GDP, which is completely normal, and eventually it will be a productive sector rather than an expenditure, بيكون revenue مش expenditure. It can also lead to reduction of water losses. Even with the increase of industrial and agricultural production, we can be water efficient and reduce the volume of water that we are using. Even if we follow these guidelines, أو إذا بدكم this vision, we can reach zero death from air pollution, additional death from air pollution. انتبهوا يعني إذا واحد عنده قاس نحن ما خصنا. But the additional death that comes from generators, power plants, وكل هول, once we move into a clean energy producing sector, automatically we can reduce our health bill. أهم شيء, we will be avoiding damage that it's costing us today $7 billion. $7 billion cumulative, $12 million of our GDP goes as indirect cost and damage from climate event, from heat stress, from productivity stresses. So we know where to go. We know that it will get us into new directions. What do we need today? We need to lock these ideas upstreams, and we are working with, we as Ministry of Environment and UNDP, we are working with CDR, بكل شيء دفعته شروط. So all terms of reference for any project will have to pass by the Ministry of Environment and have these ideas integrated. Any project that has to proceed will have to go through, anyway بالقانون, they have to go through an EIA or SEA process, environmental impact assessment. Environmental impact assessment, ما فيك تعمر طريق إذا you didn't get the approval of the Ministry of Environment. So it's in this approval where we can put these ideas so that, again, مثل ما عم بقول لكم إنه you lock it upstream. In the green procurement, we're working with public procurement to have a green procurement process where we can also mainstream these concepts at the bidding system, okay, at the terms of reference system. We are also we have created actually Lebanon Green Investment Facility, which is a facility that aims to attract private sector money or investors' money into Lebanese private sector, برات Lebanon, so that we overcome all the locks that we have from the banking sector. So it's attracting investments, attracting grants, having a blended finance system, which is pumped back into the private sector in Lebanon to exactly lock projects that are climate positive, okay, that are both resilient and with low carbon. We are also developing a climate change law. إذا عم نحكي عن جد reforms, institutional reforms, a climate change law that will give the full mandate and the full responsibility for the Ministry of Environment and other ministries to put this, and خلص بتصير قانونيا, it's not بقى ليا عم تحكي in a conference, it's by law and by decrees that all of this have to be mainstreamed. Finally, I think the more, so there's willingness, but more importantly, there's money. And when there's money, ears and eyes are open, and this is where we're trying to link all this climate proofing of Lebanon reconstruction to the available flows of investments and money. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Leo. I believe the questions and answers will be later with all our speakers. We would just like to remind you, for those who registered to the in-parallel panel discussion, it's at 1 p.m. and you received a confirmation, please head to the 4th floor, room 425. Our volunteers and guides will tell you where to go. Now I hand over back to Dr. Mariat. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hannah.